All right. Yes, that's me. All right, so we are releasing Mastermind 3.0. You saw that on Mike's timeline. There are definitely some upgrades and new functionality that's being added. I will tell you, we're not deprecating anything. Nothing's going away if you are a user of Mastermind. We're giving it both a facelift as well as a functionality lift. Today we're going to talk about who, what, when, and why. We'll then dig into it a little bit more if we have time for, in a little bit of a demo, but we'll have the demo rolling at ASHG for the next several days, so please also feel free to come by and search your favorite gene variant, all of those things. And then for the breakout sessions, the table I'm going to be leading is the roadmap table. That is an NDA required, but we're going to cover where we're going with this down the road, like where we're going to continue going, and we'd love input about, does everyone agree that that's the path we want to be taking? How do we, what functionality do people think should be introduced? So start with who. Genomenon is the first curate the clinical exome at the gene level, and this is based on ClinGen standards. So we have curated clinical exome. Obviously is a very vague term. As Mike had said, it's around 5,500 genes is what we're deeming the clinical exome. We're going to continue doing this. So there's going to be updates rolling out over that 3.1, 3.2 that Mike had spoken about. We're providing a comprehensive catalog of gene-disease relationships to help accelerate novel variant curation, and especially, obviously, geared toward large panels and the exomes and the genomes that we've been talking about today. This will include also workflow updates to simplify, and it's done by our team of over 100 different curation experts manually assessing this. All right, so they're using a tool like Mastermind. We have a little bit different one internally that serves them all these articles. They can then assess, in this case, what I was talking about is gene-disease relationships. But where this came from, as Mike had alluded to or talked about earlier, is that 50% of searches that went into Mastermind across all users were actually gene only. So at the gene level, and then maybe gene phenotype to figure out in your whole genome if that might have been a gene of interest. So it didn't come down to a variant level. We took that combined with feedback requests for updated workflows, filtering within so I want to look at the different types of variants because mine's a novel variant, and thus I need to know in my domain are missense variants, causative of disease, right? So really narrowing down, especially for those novel variants. And then the ability to see the curated content, the Genomenon, curated content, and the ClinVar curated content across all the variants in that gene. So again, what is this then? We manually assessed this content. So there's a new gene information page I will start to go through. We also are offering ACMG gene-wide parameters, and that's for interpreting variants, and you'll see I'll do some screenshots of each of these as we go. And we have curated the clinical exome for gene-disease relationships and gene-level information. And we are exponentially growing the genes curated at the variant level. All right, so we're doing both. We're doing gene-disease relationships and gene-level information for classifying novel variants that you may have in a gene. Also, we're going through, and at any point, by the way, if anybody asks me these questions, I'm going to be deferring about the curation. I will be deferring to Jeffrey. He'll be running a table after this too. He's the head of our curation team, so he can dive into all of this information, okay? When? Well, today, about 8 p.m. tonight. We're actually going to debut this at the conference tomorrow. This is just a screenshot of a single gene that I put up there. I'm going to break this down into the different components. It looks kind of simple, but there's a lot of information that you can glean from this page. And it's hard to put a screenshot of software. Okay. Gene-disease relationships. So again, these are manually curated according to, based on the ClinGen recommendations. You'll get the disease, strengths of association, including things like disputed and refuted and no known association gene disease. Inheritance type, if the strength of the association is definitive. So you're going to see I kind of grabbed some disease. Oh, by the way, this isn't all for one gene or disease. I'm grabbing screenshots so you can see all these things. So it's a complete list of gene-disease relationships so that you can interpret novel and known variants. Please also ask questions as you have them if you'd like to do that. very bottom of the page, it was hard to fit on that original screenshot. There's actually gene summary level information. So things we're pulling in from RefSeq, you can see there. That's going to be your descriptor, which includes things like gene family, cellular location. We're pulling in functional domains. You'll see that most of the way down here where it says domains. And it's giving you a start and a stop. That will be graphically also in the variant table here in a second. We're seeing all the synonyms. You can see how many there get to be for some of these. Canonical transcripts, chromosome location, as well as protein shift information. In that way, when you are searching a variant for this, I picked one that had a signal peptide that's known to be associated with it. Not only will you get you'll get articles that might match that shift. So when you search a variant in our system, we will take into account those types of shifts. So if someone searches, A2 and A28 would be the same variant, and at position 28, right, there wouldn't have been an A otherwise, we'll actually match those. So we're taking into account that author meant that was, in fact, the same position. Okay. Below that, even on this same site, there's scrolling, are some intrinsic metrics for the application of ACMG gene-wide criteria. Right, so that you can see all of the different metrics here on the left, so PBS1, PP2, BP1. We're then bringing in those values, showing them to you here in the middle, as well as evaluating those. So again, this is a manually evaluated process. The references are actually on the website also. I'm not going to screenshot that here. But it gives you whether or not you should consider applying these. Okay. We then have a variant breakdown. So all of that was sort of more at the gene, the top gene level, what we're giving. The variant breakdown itself is then going to include both, and you can see it here in the tabs, ClinVar content and Genomenon, if we've curated the variants in this gene. We then break them down by type, which you can more see on the left, so say missense, synonymous, truncating type variants. When you actually open any of those, you're going to get the breakdown of the pathogenicity here for any of those specific types of variants. All right, so we're breaking that down for both ClinVar content as well as Genomenon content, so you can come in and say, I have a missense variant in ATP7B, since that's the example I pulled, are missense variants known mechanisms of disease? Does Genomenon believe that missense variants are pathogenic? Does ClinVar believe missense variants are pathogenic? When you do that, which again, can't really show this is why there's a demo, there's a whole variant landscape. So positional information here on the top right across the x-axis, so amino acids. Right below that, and I hovered over one when I took the screenshot, that's where your domains are, right? So it's just showing you all of the variants across that gene, as well as those then broken down. You can obviously see them down here. So what you can do is say, I'm looking for missense variants, but I know I'm filtering by, right, a specific domain. I know I want to filter by plus or minus a couple residues from where I am. You can do that there and then see if those are actually in fact pathogenic. ClinVar, Genomenon. Right, so it's really going to be able to show you around where I am I seeing my type of variant? The pathogenicity, what is the pathogenicity of my type of variants? Right, you can look at things like you can go and grab the last exon and say are truncating variants in the last exon, known to be pathogenic, ClinVar, Genomenon. So that's where we're trying to sum this up to the gene level so that if you really do have this is to support a true novel variant workflow, right? If you're bringing something that hasn't been seen before, these are the types of information you're likely going to need to assess that variant quickly. So yeah, generally that kind of broke down the different sections and the type of information we're giving you in this page, in the new gene page that we have ready. Is to reduce the turnaround times, obviously increase that diagnostic yield, so give you the information you need very quickly to assess those variants, and accelerate that throughput, because you're going to spend a lot of time doing things that are VUSs in very specific domains or even within subparts of the protein. You can go in here and really search for that information and hone in on it very quickly. Questions right there. I'm going to open Mastermind here in a second. Yes?
What happens when you disagree with ClinVar?
We give you both pieces of information. You know, that happens a lot, especially because the way that the ClinVar breakdown for pathogenicity, right? So pathogenic, VUS, and benign, we're doing very big buckets there. So it's PLP, stuff in the middle when I talk about ClinVar, because the stuff in the middle is going to be when they say conflicting, when they say drug responsive, right? They have all kinds of those classifications. So we're just rolling it up to the RCV level, bringing in that information, and then there's a way to click through into actually seeing more information about the ClinVar, and then you can obviously jump to ClinVar 2. So you can see the star rating, you can see their star rating system, you can see the last time it was classified in ClinVar, so that can also give you an idea. We may have something as LP, they have it as VUS, and they evaluated it in 2017. Well, there you probably go, right? So it's just quick and easy to say, likely maybe why is that? Because it'll say 4 people depositing institutions. So if you see 4 conflicting, but 2017 and we've got LP, I bet you there's something new, right? Go ahead.
How do you access phenotype information? Would it be under gene disease associations when you had it before once?
So phenotype information is going to be one of our next rollouts. So right now it's gene disease associations, but phenotypes are going to be something that we're going to be working on. So we don't have those right this second. There is a way in this and that we are including that you can always add those to your own search though. Right, so you can always look at articles that have to do with gene disease plus phenotype. That's easy to search, and we'll return those articles for you to assess, but it's not part of the manual curation that we've done right now.
And there's no button to link to OMIM, for example?
There's not right this minute.
So you have to do it separately?
Yep, and we're not just bringing in, you can see OMIM diseases in there, but we're not just using OMIM, right? So we're comparing to ClinGen, obviously. OMIM is another piece of information we're looking at. There's several others. So, start here.
Where is the functional domain information coming from? Is that predictions or from?
The Uniprot right now,
Oh.
or Uniprot. There's a great debate about that one.
Any tissue-specific gene expression information?
Not yet. Yeah. So there's a couple databases, and I'll be intrigued to hear which ones y'all are using, because I have some in mind that I think we should. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. I don't know if other people use different ones, but that's the one we're going to be looking at potentially. Yeah. This is definitely a 3.0 release. This is exactly why we're having a conversation potentially today, and why we love these questions about, what is on our roadmap? Where do we start moving this? We're really taking the approach of taking this feedback and trying to make Mastermind suit your needs versus us designing something in a black hole. Yes?
How about AD/AR genes? Because there are sometimes very different functionalities. Like for AD you have gain of functions, and for AR you have loss of functions. Will be there kind of nice quick overview already where you had those gene phenotype curations and the phenotype? Because it would be a lovely space to see that for AD it's a gain of function, and for AR it's loss of functions. Some type of variance.
So that's not in this initial release, but that's definitely something that we're talking about. That's correct. Yeah. So in this initial, it's just going to have the disease and then just say ADAR. However, we're starting to look at what's it look like to expand that. We're also in the next one, I will tell you straight up, you'll see this in a demo or tomorrow. Right now, all of the articles aren't linked to the gene disease, but that's going to be a quick follow-up too. So we'll show you all the articles we used for that gene disease association. Yeah, so this is actually one of our staging environments. You'll see that up here, but as I said, tomorrow this will be live. Quickest way to get an example of it, just to start looking, there's going to be the new gene page right here, demo, on the home page. When I do click into that, what I'm then going to land on is obviously something that looked a lot like what you'd seen before, but again, this is more interactive. This chart up here, you can now see, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out to the whole of the gene. You can see where I'm zoomed on this, right? I want to go in here, I can do that. If I hover over any given one of these positions, we'll give you every single variant at that position that's been identified in literature, including the corresponding number of articles. In a second, I'm going to click on that, because what you're going to see down here This is every variant, right? All the variants that we found here. But if I wanted to look at that one region that I just arbitrarily clicked at, right? What I can do, sorry, moving cursors is hard. There we go, something. It's gonna actually filter this table here. So I'll be able to look at just those. I can then click in here anyway. You can see that mouse, that's gonna take me to that one article about that variant. So it's a really quick and easy way to get through saying I wanna go from a specific region, or if I'd been way up here and I said I do care about that domain and I click on that domain, it will filter by that specific domain. I then can say, hey, I actually really only care about, whatever type of variant I want to look at. And you can filter by those types of variants. So again, I can just keep narrowing down. I want my type of variant within my domain, or whatever domain I'm in. So again, the breakouts here, right? So what is the pathogenicity of the different, and I clicked on missense. Yes? Okay. Ooh. My 13-inch laptop looks fine. I don't know what the problem is, Mike. So what I was doing up here, so you can see these different types. So again, I'm just clicking on that. You'll see that drop down, little caret thing. Right, so I can obviously see that, truncating variants are known to be pathogenic based on ClinVar, because that's where I am right now. If at any point I want to look at a specific subtype of article, so I've focused right now, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I've focused right now, so here's those diseases that you've seen. Right. Then down here, I'm just going to show you what I'd shown you, and then I'll go into some other things. This is where we had the start of that information, all of that. I can either scroll really far down or just get a nice little pop-up so I can see it. Right, so these are all the different scores that we're bringing in, as well as, again, those types of calculations, right? So this is the number of loss of functions over total pathogenic variants. And we're giving you the assessment here. Right. And this is where I was saying we do have the references here. If you want to go look at any of where those calculations come from, why are we doing them the way we're doing them. This is the gene I pulled, that signal peptide, but you'll see things like it's historically known that people deleted the start codon, right? So you're going to see a 1 base shift historically. This means you're going to see people not include this, and you're going to see that historically the numbers are off. Is that making sense when I say that? So what's happening is people 5 years ago may have reported a specific, it might be, proline at position 1, 2, 3. Well, you're going to see a shift in that because they may or may not have included a signal peptide in that numbering. But what we will do is use that information to then match if anybody does, I don't even remember the number I just said, sorry, if anybody sees a proline off by those shifts. Right, because the likelihood of there being a proline reference at that other position is very low. Right. I hope that's making sense. Yeah. So this is a new gene page. And then in all of this, the Mastermind functionality is still there. So right now it's because I've only entered a gene. If I want to jump over and say I want to see these articles, I'm logged in. Come on, there we go. These are the articles. This is also how I could have clicked on ClinVar and come across to look at the ClinVar data. This one had, whichever one I clicked on, I think it was this first one. That's a tiny little ClinVar logo, I promise. This is ClinVar, right? I can see the ClinVar information here at the top, so that's going to give you a bit more about, likely benign, what you were asking about how much, what happens if we are discrepant. Jump to another one really quickly. Search bar, there. Oh, that one. So this is where we've curated content here. So you're also going to see curated content this is from Genomenon. I am clicking on that tab. It's really hard to see on this light blue. It looks fine on my screen. But you'll see all the different types of variants here, or classifications of variants, I apologize. For any singular variant, now I'm going to jump across this one, So that's a little tiny Genomenon logo, also still promise. If I jump across to that variant, what that's going to then give me is our curated content breakdown. Right. Yeah, sorry. It's hard for me to navigate. And so this is Genomenon's curated content. And we have said that this variant is a VUS. ClinVar has conflicting, so some agreement at least. Obviously, came out pretty recently, 15 submissions. You know, I can jump out of there. That's really all in one screen normally. I can just jump to ClinVar and it'll take me exactly to that record. But Genomenon's curated content here says that these are the different types of evidence. And I can view this interpretation, and we'll have a faster link to this on our, okay, I'm trying to zoom, I'm sorry. So, this is really fun game to play. So this is where our team of curators have gone in and said, okay, within this article here, it's really close on my screen normally, right? This PMID here, this is sentence fragment. This is where in the article, it's a quote from the article where they report the individual cases. So you can jump out immediately to that article and find exactly what you're going to be looking for, down to the nomenclature, right? So I know that they expressed that as a CDOT or a PDOT or whatever it was, or an RSID even. It will also, it tells you here, right? Patients, controls, and then this is another area in the article where they mention it. So those three little dots means we're going to give you every place in the article where they're talking about your gene and variant in this case, and that's why we put that article here as supporting the classification, even though the classification is still a VUS. Right. So we also then give you, and this is where we have the ClinGen information here, you know, Nomad brought in, and in this case, they're supporting evidence for PBS1 null. Right. And again, the article, the sentence fragments are everywhere between the little dots, right? That's actually from the article itself telling you if you want to go search, want to read more about this, I would copy that little phrase and go find it, and it'll take you to the right place in the article. So yeah, that's our curated content. So we're curating at the variant level as well as now at the gene disease level. And trying to, as Mike was saying, this is step one as we curate the human genome. Questions? Yes?
It's possible to know if it's an imprinted gene or not.
If it's what?
If it's imprinted. Imprinted.
Imprinted?
Yeah.
It's not something we currently have
I don't think so.
within our system, but that's something we could look at in the future and include it.
Sometimes it's useful to know if it's paternally or
Yep.
maternally.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense as being something to include in the
Just
future.
like a star or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there is a list of genes from the American College of Medical Genetics that the labs should report as a secondary finding.
Yeah, what's the latest number now?
Like a star that says be careful because it's a gene that you should report. Or at least a variant that you should report because it's a gene that the American College says.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't. So the ACMG internal finding genes. We haven't. What is the latest one? How many numbers are there?
It's
Sorry.
73, 75, somewhere around there, I believe.
Yeah.
76, I think, yeah.
They just released another. It was past 73. It was something.
they-
Yeah.
okay.
So, is it how many now? You said 81. Okay. Thank you.
Can't keep up with all of them.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I saw there was a. So yeah, we are working on those genes, but no, we haven't marked them in any way. Yeah. That's a good point. Yes.
So you showed the little Genomenon, like signal when you had manually curated a variant, is that right?
Yes.
That's for manual curation?
Mhm.
So do you have classifications that some are like automated and some are manual? Or if there's a classification that you guys have put out?
The latter.
Curated?
Yes, the latter. So we do not put automated classifications in. These are manual classifications, and that's where you will see that Genomenon symbol.
Actually
400, yeah. Yeah. So well over 400, and we started with newborn onset gene diseases, so to support sort of a newborn screening, and have been expanding from there.
Is this on professional or free version or both?
Both. There are some genes that are on the free version, some genes are professional only. So to get the whole gamut, it's going to be professional only, but we do have some genes that are offered as part of partnerships. Yes?
Oh, but when you have those, collagen genes where you know that the glycine residues are the extremely important ones, will you be highlighting those kind of like specific details that if somebody will be doing the interpretation that for 1A1, so please look for the glycine residues and what also comes in type of variants for glycolate 1 or cysteine residues. Will you be providing such guidance for the variant scientists or any plans for?
Not right. We don't have that on the gene page, this initial release. It's a good recommendation suggestion. That type of information, I mean, it is included at the variant level, but you already have to be at a variant.
I think
So.
that's something we can certainly look at including.
Yeah. Right, but again, you have to already know that you're looking for a glycine that you're going to did it, and then you get that information, but that's, you're right, it's not at the gene level. Yeah. These are great recommendations, because again, this is the initial rollout, and then we want to keep moving down this.